Hello and welcome to The Wire. I'm Mitali Mukherjee. In an important development, a French judge has been tasked with investigating the controversial 2016 multi-billion-dollar sale of Rafale fighter jets to India on corruption suspicions. French National Financial Prosecutor's Office, or the PNF, is and had initially refused to investigate this multi-billion-dollar deal for 36 planes between the government of India and the French aircraft manufacturer Dassault. Now it seems that things may have taken a turn for the worse, both for the French government side and, of course, for the parties involved in India. I am joined now by Yann Philippin of Mediapart, an independent French online investigative journal that has been unearthing disturbing details about that Rafale deal and perhaps has found some more information that has led to things moving towards a legal course now. Yeah, and thank you for joining in and speaking with me again. When we spoke 3 months back, a lot of fresh investigations had been unearthed by you, but it seemed like there was going to be no action forthcoming, at least from the French side, and certainly not from the Indian side. Walk me through what's happened since then and where things stand right now.
What happened is that following Mediapart's revelation that we published at the beginning of April, a French anti-corruption NGO, which is called Sherpa, filed a new complaint. They already had filed a complaint back in 2018, but this first complaint had been buried by the French National Financial Prosecutor. And this time, because of Mediapart's new revelation, who has been incorporated to the new complaint, the prosecutor changed its mind and decided that given the new elements that we revealed, it was necessary to open a criminal investigation. So there's a direct link between the opening of this criminal probe and Mediapart's revelation back at the beginning of April.
Okay. I want to talk in great detail about the criminal investigation as well, Yann. But since that time, you have found new details as well, and this time they seem to add a lot more color about the parties involved in the deal and what seemed to have gone wrong in the timeline. So I want to, if I may, for our viewers especially, walk you through the timeline as you have discovered it while looking back at how the deal was finally closed. We go back to 2012, which was when the public tender was opened and Dassault was nominated or chosen as the party of choice. And then around 2015 is when things turned around quite fast between that period of March and April. Would you walk us through what happened in those 2 months?
Yes, what we revealed in our latest investigation that we published on Friday on Mediapart is the confidential agreements between Dassault and its Indian partner, which is Reliance Group, owned by Mr. Anil Ambani. And there's always been suspicions since 2018 that Reliance obtained the partnership with Dassault because it's very close to the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And what we revealed is something very troubling in the timeline. So if we are back in 2012, Dassault won a tender for 126 planes, out of which 108 had to be manufactured in India by HAL, which, as you know, is the big state-owned aerospace company. And there's been very long negotiations during more than 2 years, problems between Dassault and HAL. And there's been this very surprised announcement by Mr. Modi in April 2015, where during a visit in Paris, he decided to kill the tender. So the tender does not exist anymore. The 126 planes doesn't exist anymore. The Make in India and HAL is over. And instead of this, India finally bought only 36 planes, but all made in France. And that's that new announcement and these new rules announced by Mr. Modi that allowed Dassault to kill the partnership with HAL and to sign a new partnership with Reliance. And what we reveal is that Dassault and Reliance signed the first partnership memorandum of understanding 2 weeks, 15 days before Mr. Modi's surprise announcement. And that is very troubling because we can wonder whether Dassault and Reliance were informed in advance about these new rules set up by Mr. Modi. And this is all the more surprising that this announcement was really a surprise. You know, nothing leaked. 2 days before the announcement, the Indian foreign minister said, no, everything is okay. Discussions are ongoing with HAL. 2 weeks before, during an air show in Bangalore, Dassault said, everything is on track with HAL, everything's fine. And just the day after saying this, he signed an agreement with Reliance, so 2 weeks before Mr. Modi's announcement. And what we reveal also is that there's been a very important financial gift from Dassault to Reliance. Why? Because when you create a joint venture, as they did, when you are 50-50, the two partners are supposed to bring the same amount of money. And what we reveal, what is contained in this secret agreement, is that there's a plan to invest 169 million euros. And out of this sum, Reliance pledges to bring only 10 million. And Dassault 159. So it means that Reliance becomes the owner of 50% of the company by bringing almost nothing in terms of money. And so again, it raises question about why did Dassault choose such a partner who had no experience in aeronautics, who didn't bring any money or almost no money. So this raised again this suspicion that there could have been a favor granted to Mr. Ambani's Reliance Group.
Yeah, I do want to talk about the financial side of things, but I'm just going to back it up to sort of reaffirm what you said. So on April 10th, 2015, there is a note by the Indian Prime Minister saying the agreement stands null and void. We're not going ahead with what we had planned in terms of the number of aircraft we wanted. Here's a new deal. But there was an agreement signed by the 26th of March, ahead of the Prime Minister's announcement, between the Anil Ambani Group and Dassault. And as you said, it brings an odd note because on the 25th of March, many of these parties were present at the Aero Show in Bangalore, and they said things were progressing as planned. Tell me, Yann, what it is that you found and what kind of documentation you found in order to prove quite legitimately that this agreement was signed way before the Prime Minister of India even made an announcement.
It's very simple. We've had access, we've seen the agreements themselves, basically. So we were able to access these agreements. And so it's very clear because there are 3 different agreements that has been signed over time between, so the first one in March 2015 and the last one, if I remember well, at the end of 2016. And so there's been this first agreement, and this agreement is also mentioned in the other agreements. So there's no doubt that this first memorandum of understanding has been signed on the 26th of March 2015.
And
so 15 days before Mr. Modi's announcement.
And when the investigation does get underway in France, Yann, this is documentation that can be provided as concrete proof of the fact that agreements were signed even before there was any official announcement.
I can tell you that the documents exist.
Yeah. Okay. I want to move to the point that you made about the financial agreement between both parties, the 49 and 51% stake. There's a lot of interesting language in that agreement that goes on to say the Anil Ambani Group will be handed the mission for marketing for programs and services with the government of India, and of course they will provide land as well. Just to play the devil's advocate for a second, what if the defense is that it's the land that is the most expensive part, and hence the capital that was put in by the Anil Ambani Group was lesser than what Dassault had to put.
Sorry, I didn't get. Sorry, I don't understand your question very well. Okay, I'm sorry.
Let me repeat.
Can you please?
Part of the contours of the agreement indicate that the Anil Ambani Group will help with marketing services with the government of India, as also provide land for this particular deal. What if the counter argument to the point that you were making is that the Anil Ambani Group's contribution was land, not specifically capital, which is why they didn't put in as much money as their partner Dassault did.
It's not what's written. What's written is that they will provide, production facilities. But as you know, they didn't have any production facility in aerospace when this agreement has been signed. So all that we can presume, because unfortunately they did not wish to comment, is that this providing production facility is basically their contribution to the creation of the factory that they built in Nagpur. But I don't know who bought the land, it's not sure who bought it, if it's a joint venture or if this land has been bought by Reliance and then given to the joint venture. I don't know about this. But so it doesn't change anything that there were these 169 million euros of investment planned. So that was the projection for the total cost of the investment. And that out of this big sum, the contract says that Reliance will bring at maximum 10 million and Dassault at maximum 159. So the question here is, what is in the interest of choosing a partner that brings so little money? And that seem, to also to bring its capacity of influence because of this clause saying that Reliance must market programs and services to the government of India. And what is also troubling is that it's not only about the Rafale, but what the agreement says is that Dassault and Reliance want to take a share of work in other Indian jet programs that are today led by HAL. And for instance, they want to do design work for the new versions of the Tejas fighter, which is a purely Indian fighter, which has been developed by HAL and the research agency of the Indian Ministry of Defense. So it's really a HAL program. And this agreement says that Dassault and Reliance will try to get some work on this program, which has nothing to do with the Rafale.
Mm. Is this the norm in terms of language or syntax that you would find in documents and agreements that the French government would sign in defense deals, Yann, where you have language like marketing for programs and services with the GOI? It strikes a very odd note, does it not?
Yes, because it seems to indicate that Dassault needs the influence, the capacity of conviction of Reliance towards the government of India in order to get more, to get more than the Rafale deal that they already have. As I told you, the agreements say that they wish to work for indigenous Indian fighter jet programs. And it's also public knowledge that Dassault hopes that there is another order of Rafale, that there will be more than 36 planes. And what is also interesting is that the agreement says that in case there's a second order, which is a big one, which requires that the planes are assembled in India, as it was planned in the first tender in 2012, this assembly line will not be operated by HAL as it was planned before. But if this happens, this is a joint venture, so Dassault and Reliance, who will operate this assembly line and assemble maybe Rafale in the soil, on the soil of Indian territory.
And also very clear, Yann, you would say that for Dassault, there was really no interest in partnering with a company like the Anil Ambani Group, except for political reasons. As you said, there's not a lot coming in by way of financial capital that's being pumped into the JV. There's not a lot that's coming in terms of technical know-how. In fact, there is no, sort of legacy knowledge at all. So it looks like the only reason they've come on is for political access.
Basically, that's what's written in the contract. The only contribution of Reliance is first is capacity of marketing program and services to the government of India, and second is help to set up the new factory in Nagpur. So that's and there is almost no money. There's no experience in aerospace. And you remember what former French President François Hollande said to Mediapart back in 2019. He said that Anil Ambani had been imposed to France, and that, I quote him, France did not have the choice about the name of the partner. So, of course, this has been denied by the French government, today's French government, by the Indian government, also by Dassault and Reliance, who claim that they partnered, in free will. But there is this suspicion, and this suspicion was born from all that you said, that the partnership doesn't seem to have a great interest for Dassault, but has a great interest for Reliance, and also these declarations from the former French president, who clearly said that Reliance had been imposed to France by the Indian government.
Let's move it to the here and now, Yann, because the focus is now on the fact that there is a financial investigation that's opening up. Explain to us what the sanctity of the PNF is, how they will go about this process, and what they're going to be looking at.
Okay, so just to explain to an Indian audience, there are two kinds of criminal investigations in France. First kind is led by prosecutors who are not statutorily independent from the political power. And second kind of investigations are led by what we call investigating judges, which are statutorily independent. And this is what will happen in the Rafale case. So the investigation will be led by an independent judge. And so basically, he will try to dig into this and to see if there's been or not criminal offenses committed. And all that we can say about this right now is that it's going to take a lot of time, because those corruption cases, especially about such sensitive and high-profile defense deals, are always complex investigations. There are offshore commissions in several tax havens. So it's very likely that the French judge demands international cooperation, judiciary cooperation with other countries to try to follow the money. And so all this takes a lot of time, and we can expect several years of investigation before the judge can decide whether there is going to be a trial or not.
From all the charges that exist, though, Yann, including obstruction of truth, hiding financial details, corruption, as you said, which ones are the most serious at this point and potentially the most damning for the people involved?
It's difficult to say. I would say that the two main charges, alleged charges as of today, as everybody in this case is presumed innocent, as the investigation is only starting, are corruption and favoritism. You mean corruption is, has there been or not bribes given by Dassault through a middleman to Indian officials? So that is a very serious allegation, suspicion. And the second one is the favoritism, which is all that we talked about earlier, meaning the conditions that led Reliance to become Dassault's main partner. And so has there been a favor granted to Reliance Group so that they obtain this partnership contract at the place of HAL?
Does the statutory independent judge have the sort of the right and the mandate to subpoena witnesses? Can he subpoena witnesses from other countries? Can people of Indian origin or Indians be summoned for questioning?
I'm not, I'm not an expert in criminal procedure, but of course he can ask. I don't know. I don't think. Again, I don't want to say something that that I'm not sure about. So I don't know if he has the power to summon them, but he can ask. Of course, he can ask that foreign people that do not live in France be interrogated. What he can do is that he can ask other countries to help in finding and interrogating people. It happened in other similar cases where basically the judge asks another country for judiciary cooperation, and then either the judge or the policeman travel to this country in order to proceed to interrogation, always in cooperation with this country. When this happens, this is jointly made by France and the country whose cooperation has been requested. But of course, the condition is that these countries accept to cooperate with the French judge.
Given the nature of the subject at hand, though, Yann, the fact that it's defense and the fact that there are allegations of corruption that go right to the very top in terms of leadership, would it be fair to say this will be a highly sensitive probe? And would it be fair to say that there's now finally a lot of attention on the subject, because it's been on slow boil for both our countries for a while now, and we haven't really seen any legal action taking place up until now?
Yes, this is a very, very sensitive probe because you've got in this probe the names of today's India Prime Minister, today's President of France, Mr. Macron, as also the former President of France, Mr. Hollande. So these three very high-profile politicians are mentioned in this investigation. So it's quite rare, that you have so many high-profile political leaders in a single investigation. So yes, that's going to be a very, very sensitive investigation. And also about your previous questions, one interesting thing is what will India do now? Because as we revealed in our previous investigation, there are very interesting documents for this case, about the offshore commissions paid to Dassault middlemen that are today inside a case file of the Enforcement Directorate of India. So it is, I would say, likely that the French judge will ask India, to have access to these documents. And so what will India do? Will the Indian authorities judge? Will they not? Will India finally launch its own criminal investigation? What we can say is that, again, it is likely, it's not sure, of course, but it's likely that, so if there is a request for cooperation from the French judge, then India will have to take position, to say, okay, we accept to cooperate or we do not accept. And that's going to be interesting to know.
Absolutely. And at this point, the main opposition party, Yann, has asked for a joint parliamentary committee inquiry into the subject, given the latest developments. I just wanted to ask also, at this point, you mentioned that the investigation has opened on the basis of the documents that you revealed 3 months back. Has the investigation taken into account the fresh set of findings that you have unearthed, and the fact that you found that there is a timeline which seems to be going extremely awry between the official announcement versus what was happening behind the scenes? Has that documentation been taken on board as well in this inquiry, or not yet?
I don't know, because I don't know what all that I know and what I wrote is that the probe has been opened, but I have absolutely no idea about what the judge did as of today. And these things take time. The judge has only been appointed 2 weeks ago, so it's a very complex case. So I imagine, again, done as of today, but basically he has to read a lot of things to understand the case, and then he will decide what he wants to do in terms of investigation. So I think we must be patient and wait for what we'll do or will not do. I have absolutely no idea what the judge has at this moment.
Yeah. I know it would be difficult for you to, of course, comment on what India's reaction might be to this, Yann, but I was just wondering what the mood in France is about this subject now, because, till 3 months back when we spoke as well, the standard pushback, even from your country, was that this is a matter of national interest and national security, so it's not going to be investigated. But now it looks like the Pandora's box has opened up. What's the mood amongst people? Are they looking at this carefully as a sign, or are they concerned about the level of corruption that we're talking about?
There's still a big difference. What changed because the opening of this probe is the reaction from the media. There had been very small coverage of our revelations 3 months ago, and now that there is an official probe and that in a way our revelation has been validated officially by the French justice, there is more coverage. The media talk more about it, about the case. But what did not change is that there is absolutely no political reaction. I think that not a single French politician reacted publicly to the opening of this probe. And so there's really this will on the French side basically to not to fuel the case, and you can feel that the politicians, they don't want to talk about it. They don't talk about it. Even the opposition parties, basically don't take about it. In India, the opposition party is very loud, is very vocal, asks for investigation. In France, there is no such reaction from the opposition parties. So the case has not become a political topic as of today.
But you would assume that because of the intensity of the media glare on it now, there will be pressure even on those investigating to push harder from India in order to get enough reactions or enough documentation in place?
Really, I don't know. I'm sorry, but I don't know.
That's okay. Here in India, we're not sure either. We've been watching this case for a while. What next, Yann? Now that, as you said, it's just been 2 weeks. How would you map the rest of the year? How do you think it's going to move? Is it going to be a very slow-moving process?
Yeah, as I told you, if we talk about the probe, this is going to take long. Usually it takes several years of investigation to complete such a case. So what we can say is that it's been quite a long time now that the deal has been signed, 5 years, and that the controversy emerged. But what we can say is that it's just the beginning. And now we have several years of investigation and hopefully of a new revelation ahead of us.
And you've been digging out all those details, Yann. So more power to you for that. I think this is an extremely important revelation that you made in terms of what was happening behind the scenes between some of the key parties. Thank you so much for joining in. All the best with further investigations. And thank you again for chatting with me.
Thanks very much for inviting me.